Welcome to the Roundtable Consult. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Williams, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Attorney Sonia Madison. How you doing, Sonia?
Well, it's been Liberation Day. It's come and gone. I don't
You
know if
feel
I
you
feel any
feel
more
liberated?
liberated. I guess I missed the steps to liberation during that process, but
He's liberating your finances from your possession.
I know my 401k has been definitely
Been
liberated.
liberated.
How about you? How you doing over there?
I feel free. I feel free. Praise the Lord, I'm free. No, all good. All is well. I'm excited. I just sit back and watch all this stuff and like, man, yep, this is how it's supposed to go down. And so uh it's interesting to me just because he actually made a comment this week, I think posted on social on Truth Social, the Untruth Social, um, that this is the perfect time for people to get rich. Investors, this is the time for you to get rich like never before. I said, you just exposed the reason and the rationale behind why he's doing this. Of course, the goal for him and a lot of rich people is to, one, sink the economy. One, they want to make sure that stock prices go down so that they can be purchased for those who have some cash reserves. They can be purchased at a low price and then they can go back up and you earn even more money than you lost when the market went down because you didn't sell or because you had because you had some liquid cash. Wait till people can no longer afford their houses, they get foreclosed on, and houses are bought pretty cheaply, and real estate is bought pretty cheaply. And so when the market recovers, you're good. And then I guess the biggest one of all is make the economy bad enough for the Fed to lower the interest rates. And this is the time when people get rich who are prepared, those who are prepared. Those who aren't prepared for it, financially prepared, I should say, get poorer. This is why we keep getting the widening gap between the upper class and the middle class and lower class. So it's widening wealth
I
gap.
would dare say if you're prepared, it's because of generational wealth. Because again, if you've been making investments, if you have been purchasing property and all that is pretty much tied up into your wealth. And as you are speaking about, now your investments are going down. And if in fact real estate goes down, I think that's going to be an interesting one. Because it's hard for me to see it going back to 2008 time, back during that recession time. But nonetheless, I'm not saying that it will probably be stagnant, but that's going to be interesting to see. But I don't want to bring off the notion that, hey, if you are not prepared for this, that's tough on you. I would not go that far.
Well, no, no, no. That's his position, I'm sure. That's his position. He's got no compassion for people who actually struggle in life financially, who actually have more month at the end of their money. And so he doesn't have any compassion for that. His whole focus and commitment and loyalty are to helping the rich get richer, and we see that happening still.
But I don't even want to limit it to compassion for struggling. It's no compassion for the middle class in general. I mean, because again, if you remember back in the 2008 times when that recession, it was middle class that struggled. And you losing your job, and like you said, that you're losing your 401k, you're losing your pension. And so all that savings that you have for that rainy day is getting depleted, and it's no end in sight until President Obama did the bailout. And if by what you're saying there will be no bailout,
Mhm.
then whether you were struggling before or middle class before, it's going to be it's going to be different. And I don't know if you could prepare for that beyond having generational wealth.
Yeah, I don't think you can. Even those persons who have had I just think this is beyond what his plan is. Actually, I think there's a whole lot of spiritual things going on, and including even them investigating indulge activities to say there's so much fraud and corruption and mismanagement of funds, and so we're going to take everything away. And once you get enough economic hardship, people will resort to violence, or they will, or will have to become a socialist society. And they're not going to become a socialist society. So people will resort to violence, and then they say, "Yeah, all of our government safety nets are gone." And then they can come in magnanimously and say, "Hey, you know what? maybe we knew we needed to take away some of these safety nets because there was just so much fraud and abuse. But now we got a new system of assisting all of you poor people, and it's all going to be digital and it is fraud proof, it is abuse proof, and so we can track all this money and everything. But the only way that you can get it is if you receive this mark. And I think from a broader scheme of things, this is one of the things we have to be mindful of. And I'm not saying that it's happening during this cycle, but one of the reasons why people will be persuaded to receive the mark of the beast is because economic times get so hard. You can't purchase food for your crying babies. You can't purchase a medication that will save your child's life. And when people get desperate, they do desperate things. Can imagine how desperate somebody must be in order to cross continents, 3, 4, 5 different countries, just to get on foot, just to get to the United States and hope that you can get across the border, knowing that along the way you're at risk for dying, you're at risk for being raped, your children are at risk for being kidnapped and sold into sex slavery. Just imagine how desperate it really has to you have to be in order to endure all of that. Americans won't do that. Americans will just go over to the richer neighborhood, bust open that window, and go in and take whatever they have when they become desperate enough. Because there will be some that are in the society that still have enough money that they can actually become the targets. And this government solution to that will be: here's what we're going to do. We're going to offer you this out, but you have to accept this mark. And so, my words, that's what's going to happen with some of these things. So,
Well, and even when you get here, you gotta pray that you're not deported off to El Salvador mistakenly. I mean, we laugh, but it is
right.
extremely
Let me
sad.
let me say this before we talk about that. There is this whole notion. People are saying, "Well, see how the tariffs are already working because governments. We've got almost $5 or $6 trillion of investments in the U.S." Now, one thing I need to correct something. It is not an investment. It is a pledge. It is a pledge to build manufacturing positions. And some of the automakers are planning to build new plants here. Like, why don't you just use the underutilized space that you have right now to bring those things up to running and bring it back sooner? Because it'll take you at least a year, 2 years before you build a whole new manufacturing plant. But I think most of these pledges are just gestures to help Donald Trump win in the moment and to satiate him for a little while. Because these are pledges doesn't necessarily mean that they have to come through. But even if they do come through, understand what's going to happen with manufacturing. The manufacturing of the 1970s and before, that's gone. This thing is not going to bring in a whole lot of extra jobs that everybody thinks that it will bring in, because it does. Technology is taking over most of those things. So don't be deceived by it. They said, first of all, those pledges occur over a 10-year period of time. And then over that 10-year period of time, it's estimated to produce 250 to about 500,000 jobs. Well, we had at least that much. I'm sorry, during some of the months of a Biden administration, we've had 256,000 jobs added in a month, let alone over a course of 10 years to get really excited about it. So hold your horses about it and see how it's going to pan out. The other thing is they're talking about, look at the other countries are coming to the table now and releasing some of their tariffs. That might be actually a benefit. I may have to give him some credit on that one.
I'm not sure what country you're talking about because China's like, all right, I'll match you tariff for tariff,
Right, right.
and to your point, I do think it's a global economy right now, and so you can call it part of that is artificial intelligence, AI. You can call it a lot of just innovations in general, but I think it's always to some degree been this notion or this forefront that hey, I want to make sure there's like a digital currency and it's not just American currency. I want to make sure there's a digital manufacturing and it's not, or a global manufacturing and it's not just, in America. And quite honestly, even like a General Motors, Ford, all them, they're hurting from this and they're no more happy about the tariffs than anything else. And I still imagine that a lot of the repairs, the maintenance, the car parts, some of that is still helped manufactured overseas. And so this idea that, hey, something is pretty much exclusively in all forms done in the US, I mean, I think that's going to be well long and gone, if not already, in the
Mhm.
next few years.
So Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand have all made concessions on their taxes, on their tariffs that they placed to us. First of all, let's make sure also that we clarify this is not a reciprocal tariff. A reciprocal tariff would be that country, and I'm not even sure that this would qualify as a reciprocal tariff, but that country charged 35% on all imports from the U.S. Then we would charge 35% on their imports from their country. Let's say
And to
Cambodia.
some degree, that was already happening for a lot of, but before even Trump did the tariffs thing.
Yeah, so the issue with that, and that's not necessarily even reciprocal, because sometimes we consume a lot more of their imports than they do of ours, and other times they consume a lot more of our exports than we consume of theirs. And so when you multiply it by the same rate, then you wind up with a trade deficit, and that's what Donald Trump actually used. He said, "What's the trade deficit?" We look and say, "Okay." We have $12 billion of or 10 what was about like 9 billion, I think it was, for uh, trading with um, Cambodia, but Cambodia only bought 320 million from us. And so took the difference of that and divided it by two, basically, and divided by, I'm sorry, the total number of exports that they had, and then divided it by two. And that's how he came up with the tariff rates that we were going to impose on them, and how he came up with theirs. That is not how you come up with a tariff rate. A tariff rate is a fixed number. They said this is what we're going to put on this good. He just basically is trying to address the trade deficit. And a lot of people really can concur that, some of the trade deficits that we have, where we're spending more money in other countries than they are in ours, some of that, there's a real issue. But when you look at smaller countries like Vietnam or,
I was going to say the ones you
Cambodia,
mentioned.
yeah, there's no way that they're going to spend as much money taking our exports as we spend taking theirs. Americans are, I don't know if this is true or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if we are the highest consumers of goods and services in the world, just because we live very luxuriously compared to other places in the world. And so I presume that we are probably one, we have the highest GDP of any other country. So therefore, we have more discretionary income to purchase many of these goods and services. And so to believe that you're going to drive all this manufacturing back to the US and that we're going to have enough capacity to meet that demand is foolhardy. We're already on back order, and unemployment rate has been at 4% for what, 4 years now, 5 years almost. And when unemployment is at 4% and you have to increase your capacity and increase your production, how are you going to get it? You need staff, you need workers to be able to fulfill those needs. And trust me, any employer who's been out there for the past 4 years, especially about 3 or 4 years ago, realize just how difficult it is to hire somebody. And it will continue to be difficult to hire somebody, except for the people that are getting fired from the government jobs. And so that might be the one salvation. It's like, yeah, we're going to have plenty of employees because all those people that were sucking on the teats of the government are now gone.
Well, I mean, and you said this from the beginning. This is what was going to happen. I mean, to me, he campaigned on tariffs. And so anyone that is saying, oh, this is not what I wanted, well, then you didn't listen to him. Because and even as you list those small countries again, what's really hitting us is China, Canada. I mean, those
Right.
are, the goods that we do consume a lot. And I will even say, like, I know Europe, UK, they give us a run for their money and their spending, but nonetheless, they're trying to get up with some allies and say, hey, let's stop this. And it's going to be interesting to see. I know Congress, some of the Republicans are trying to put forth the bill to at least put back the power of tariffs into the Senate. But the reality is, or the Congress in general, but the reality is, even if your argument is to say, well, at least let us have the opportunity to turn it off, you're not going to turn it off. You're still too scared to stand up to this person. And as you said before, and I agree with wholeheartedly, this was what was going to happen. I think former President Obama and Kamala Harris are on the campaign reminding people, saying, hey, I don't want to say I told you so, but we knew this was coming. And I'm saying all of us knew it. We talked on this show multiple times about do understand what a tariff is. Do understand that despite the tariffs on these countries, is there a tariff on Russia? Not at all. And that makes no sense. And so again, we knew this was coming. This is not a surprise. I do not. I know that in your mind, you're like, hey, I'm enjoying watching the playback. I don't enjoy this by any means. But at the same time, I'm like, this is what we were really yelling the alarm for. And it was ignored because, again, the fear and the hatred that people much rather hung on to than hearing what this guy said and the effects that it would have. So, are you ready to talk about the
Yeah.
deportation of this? I mean, just be
Well,
brief.
he's only gonna the only countries that are gonna concede are gonna be the ones that we can easily bully. But the bigger ones like the Canada, those who actually have strong economies, they're like, we're not gonna be bullied. So that's the problem.
That's
And
what they
yes,
should say. And that's what they should say. Just because that's in
mm,
America, we didn't stand up to the bully. That doesn't mean that he becomes king of the world. That's what they should say.
mm, mm, okay. El Salvador. Let's talk about El Salvador.
Well, and just to brief, because I don't want to make it seem like, we're not conscious or aware of this. So, a Maryland man was mistakenly deported to a prison in El Salvador. He was alleged to be part of gang members, even though he had previously received an order from an immigration judge that protected him from deportation. And now the White House still, despite acknowledging the administrative error, is refusing to request El Salvador to bring them back, citing that, well, the judge had no jurisdiction to order this. And again, what's so interesting about this, and hopefully you'll get into our topic, is it just put me back, and I wasn't born, but it really put me back in 1930s, 1940s Hitler. I mean, what is really happening is him rounding up people and putting them in, I mean, you can call them prisons, but they're camps. And we're all sitting back and saying, oh, I guess we can't touch them, even though judges are saying, no, 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 bring this plane back. No, 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 go get this person back. And we're just sitting back as if, oh, well, this is what we wanted. And and again, we knew this was going to happen, and I don't know how much we could sound the alarm, but I'm just like, we are really turning into Nazi Germany, and we're complacent in it, and it is just the saddest thing. No comment.
It is unfortunately.
And so then speaking
Well,
of,
I think I'm having some connection issues. So some of what you're saying is breaking up.
oh, okay. Well, hopefully the people heard what I said. And in addition to that, we did have Cory Booker do his 25-hour rant, which hopefully, I mean, we're not going to do that today on the show. But what did you think about him filibustering or taking over the floor for 25 hours? He set the record, just to talk about again the what's going on, the oppressions of the world. I think he ended with gosh, what was that guy's name over in Georgia, just passed, not just passed, but freedom fighter. I can't even remember. I don't know why his name, John something. Gosh, help me out, brain freeze. And you're still like Selma, you know what I'm talking about, Selma leader.
Lewis, John
Lewis.
Lewis, John
Yeah,
Lewis.
John Lewis, that's who it is.
Yes.
Yes, I think he ended with John Lewis and all that. But what did you think about his stance? Because I know a lot of times people are criticizing the Democrats for not saying anything or for not doing anything. And they pretty much argued that those placards that they put up during the State of the Union was a bust. But what do you think about Cory Booker's 25-hour rant?
It's performative. I mean, it's good to take a stand. It's good to break history, make history, I guess, while doing it. But nothing. It didn't change anything.
Well, I don't know if he
20.
can do too much change. I mean, they don't have
Right. right. And so, here's the deal: all talk and no action does American people no good. I think we need to have the talk, we need to have the discussion about it, but we also need to have some action. And we are in a situation where I don't know that even action is going to be possible to be taken because you got now President Trump extorting law firms
Yeah,
to agree to not prosecute him. He's
as well
already
as
got
to do pro bono work for the government. It's crazy,
and
right?
right. Not only don't prosecute me or have anybody on your staff who has or had the propensity to prosecute me, but I also want you to defend me for free for hundreds of millions of dollars. And so now he's got the lawyers in the bags. He's got prosecutors in the bags just because he's got the DOJ controlling all those. He's fired all the inspector generals, so all the investigators are gone. Prosecutors are wrapped up. Attorneys are wrapped up. Judges, many of them are already in his pocket, and certainly the justices that he appointed to the Supreme Court. I'm like, he is set up right for
Well, and like we
dictatorship.
discussed, even the judges that are speaking out, White House won't move.
You won't listen to him. Don't have to listen to him because we wanted to go to the Supreme Court, which are my judges, and they, of course, ruled in his favor this past week. For freezing some of the what was it, freezing certain funds or whatever. They said that he can freeze those funds that Congress appropriated, which is not a good sign for other things that are going to come up before them in the future. So, um, Cory Booker, kudos to him for breaking the record and thank him
That was
for
some action. I
taking a
mean, I
stand.
know you said
Yeah.
it was all words, but that was some action.
Right. I don't get distressed about it because I don't think that it does us any good to try to get stressed about it, perplexed by it. What we need to do is be prepared for it, and that's my goal right now is to try to get prepared for it. Some of it is unavoidable.
Which, and part of being prepared for it is recognizing that everything you're going to hear is probably going to be a mistruth. And just know
It's
that
going to
we're
be true to
cautious.
somebody, though.
Oh, I don't even know if that is true. I mean, I guess it depends on what they're hearing versus what you're hearing. Because again, like we said, we told people tariffs, it's not going to be a good thing, but there was someone else hearing probably what you're saying. Well, it'll give an opportunity for the rich to get richer by depleting down some of the value of their stock, as well as rising the value of property so that only the rich can afford the property and buy back the stock. So, so
Somebody's truth.
but I'm just
Somebody's.
saying the truth isn't even being communicated the same.
Yeah.
Because even in that, again, the truth is tariffs hurt. But for someone else, truth, no, it's great.
Well, he was pretty dishonest when he said, before, uh, if he doesn't win the election, the stock market's gonna tank. He actually said, "I hope it happens in the next 12 months while Joe Biden is the president, because I don't want to be who is it? Was it Lyndon B. Johnson or Truman, who suffered a huge depression or whatever." And so he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to be one of him." Well, the reality is, you stepped into office, you were handed a wonderful economy, and here it is. It is sinking. Now, I posted a graph that showed the economy, the stock market growth, and everything under President Obama and under Biden, and then you'd see a constant growth upward over time, and then with his, you see this pattern that starts off growth and then all of a sudden tanks. And I'm like, now how do you explain that? Well, we've got tolerance for it now because we believe that he knows what he's doing, and we got the long run game. We're just in it for the long run. And there's some benefit to say short term pain for long term gain. But the question is who's gaining and who's paining. And if you don't mind compromising and sacrificing your citizens to help the oligarchs, then you're no better than Russia or China, who will put their citizens in harm's way in order to advance a greater cause.
Well, the one thing I will say about Trump is that for the most part, he is fairly transparent. Like I said, during his campaign, he made it very clear, mass deportation, we're seeing it happen. He made it very clear again, the tariffs, we're seeing it happen. He made it very clear he wanted loyalists. We're seeing that happen. I mean, so there is some honesty and some transparency in what he's done. I think one of the people, what people may or may not realize, and I'm not an expert on investment or stock, but for the most part, it's my understanding, a lot of times the stock market is based on people's confidence in the economy. And
Hmm.
so it's clear that people are not confident with what he's doing. But it's also clear to me that people are not honest enough about their lack of confidence, or at least not translating that to making sure action in the Congress or in the executive branch, or even in the judicial branch is being done. And so that to me is this problem about what's
So,
going on.
so I spoke with, I had comment, a friend of mine I saw, he said, he posted something on social media, said if Trump is the fear mongering evil man that the media is constantly telling us he is, and it says, then why aren't his followers the ones killing cops, destroying property, looting stores, and assaulting innocent bystanders? And I thought, I said, that's awfully rich. You know, how we forget. I mean, this is intellectually dishonest. I'm just like, people, come on, let's at least be honest. This is not necessarily a Democrat thing. This is a human nature thing. When people who are used to getting their way become petulant and act like children, they basically start destroying things. Martin Luther King said that the violence is the voice of the unheard. When people aren't getting their way and feel like they're not being heard, then they will resort to these types of tactics. Now, granted, I don't condone, people going out spray painting Tesla buildings or setting Teslas on fire, shooting them, or whatever they've been doing. But this is what people do when they feel like they've been unheard and they become fed up with with things that are done to them. But guess what? The same thing happened when people scaled the walls of the Capitol building. You know, police officers died as a result of that. Police officers were assaulted. Buildings were destroyed. The Capitol was desecrated. And you act like that didn't happen? And you got the nerve to get on a high horse right now and say, this is just so unfathomable. You know, Donald Trump's people, Republicans would never have done this. Republicans did it. Republicans plotted to apprehend and kidnap a governor. Republicans assembled on the front steps of a state building with armed militia. You know, these are the things that our people are doing, and it's not necessarily one party or the other. It's both parties. It's a human nature type of thing, and until we start one holding our own people accountable with some honesty of saying, yeah, they shouldn't have done that. Yeah, that is what they did. Quit trying to make up lies and say that was all staged and that was all Nancy Pelosi. Donald Trump supporters would never have done that. Come on, dude, be a little honest with yourself.
But do you think, I guess for me, I mean, I agree that people will want to see what they want to see. But I think to me, the bigger problem is just the lack of empathy. Because again, Donald Trump was honest about what he's going to do. And so it is playing out exactly the
I
way
don't
he
think he was.
planned.
I don't think he was
Where do
because he
you think the lie came from? And yeah,
because he
changing the
said he was
price of
going to
eggs
end the
too. Yeah.
war. He said he was going to end the war on day one. He said that that the stock market was going to just soar under him. And right now he's not doing those things. He said he's
But
going to bring
he's
the
also
cost of
subsequently said,
groceries
"Oh, you're gonna hurt." He's also subsequently said, "Oh, you're gonna hurt."
subsequently, but he didn't say that during the campaign.
But again, he said we're going to do tariffs. We all know what tariffs means. He said he's going to do mass deportation. We all knew what that mean. I mean, he told the corporations, the rich people, "Hey, I'm going to make you even richer." We all knew that that was going to be the cost of us. And so that's what I'm saying. You believe what you want to believe because to me, him saying, "Well, I'm going to lower the price of X day one," we all knew that that wasn't going to happen. Him saying, "Oh, I'm going to make sure the economy is even better," even though we again was telling people the economy is already improving, the economy is already doing great. He is going to receive an economy already soaring. So we knew, okay, whatever you're saying on this day one, we knew that that wasn't going to be true. But we did know, oh, he is definitely going to do these tariffs. He is definitely going to do mass deportation. He is definitely going to make sure that he is going to remove any accountability from his stage. We definitely knew about Project 2025, and we definitely knew that he wanted to be a king. And so
Well,
we
he
ignored
didn't
all,
know. We didn't know about 2025 because he denied 2025, Project
but we still
2025.
knew about it. And we knew that the people, his advisors, were the authors of Project 2025. He was very clear on who his advisors were. So again, I mean, you can, that's what I'm saying, you can pick and choose which you felt like you wanted to hear, but he was very honest. Like, you're not
I'm
surprised
gonna,
with what's going on. I'm not surprised with what's going on. I mean, we
but
knew.
I'm not surprised just because of what other people said, not what Donald Trump said. Because even though he said he was going to do those things, one of the things he never said was how he was going to do those. And you can tell somebody, I'm going to make you rich. But if you don't tell them that you're going to become rich because I have to get you out there and pimp you and you have to sell your body or something like that, then that's still
He told
dishonest.
you how he was going to do it. Again, tariffs. Again, you just explained how all
He
this
did
is
not.
working to ensure
He
that
did not
there are
mention
going to
across
be
the board tariffs, though. He
he
didn't
did.
mention.
He
He
said,
talked
I'm
about
going to
tariffing a
institute
couple.
tariffs. He talked about mass deportation. He talked about, again, loyalists. He talked about a lack of accountability. He talked about being a king. And if you look at his background, everything that you said as it relates to, okay, let's lower the price of stock, increase equity so that people can't buy here, but they can, if they have the liquidated cash, they can buy here. That is like bankruptcy 101. And we see in his history how often he filed for bankruptcy for the point of depleting his debt. And so to me, you can even look at his life, and this is like a reflection of what he's done in his own finances. I'm just saying
Well,
we knew it was going to happen.
I'm not going to dissuade you ever of giving Donald Trump his first compliment ever.
Of being honest, I mean, I'm mad at the people. Again, I'm mad at the people.
The
I'm mad at
most
the people.
dishonest man ever.
But that's
You
why I
are
say
giving
the
him
problem,
accolades for
but
being
that's why our
honest.
problem, that's why I say the problem for me is the lack of empathy. Like we as a nation are so much about me, me, and me that you don't care how someone else suffering and struggling not only affects you, but also again, where's your heart? Where's your compassion for that struggle? I mean, again, when you heard mass deportations, was there never a man? Do we really just want to round up every person of color and say you don't belong here? Was there ever this doesn't sound right? Or even when it came to tariffs, was it ever hey, do I really want to make sure people who are already struggling by eggs have to struggle even more by hiked up taxes on this? I mean, it
Oh,
was,
they knew that it was going to happen, and they knew what their motive behind it was. They just weren't honest about their motive. Their motive, they a lot of them will say, it's just not right that they're taking jobs from our. They're not taking jobs from Americans. Americans don't want those jobs in the first place. If the part that you're dishonest about is why you really want them deported, and the main reason the Republicans want them deported was because historically Democrats have gotten the votes of immigrants, and they wanted to maintain control. They know that as immigrant, and people will make the same comment about them Democrats, why they want to make sure that we're treating immigrants fairly, and why we want to bring them into the country, and the main reason is because they want the vote. So I wish both sides would just be honest about it and say, hey, we really want immigrants for this purpose, and or either to have them or to get rid of them for this purpose. Just be honest about what your motive is behind it.
but
But
even in that, Republicans are gaining way more ground among the Hispanic and Latino community than Democrats. And when you look at, they're very much conservative. They're very much, Catholics in their religion. And so even that is I don't know. I mean, I would say that were more likely voting for the Republicans than they were for the Democrats.
well, they didn't. They had huge gains, but still, I think they still voted predominantly for Democrats. But even still, the point is that it's not just the control in the voting power. We're losing the color of America. America is becoming more increasingly brown. And so people who want to maintain the lily white history and appearance of America don't want immigrants coming in. Sometimes they don't want them in to their own detriment. And so Republicans, I suspect, even if they were able to get the number of immigrant votes, if they were to get the majority of them, many of them will still say that's still not enough. The reason why is because when you're in a democracy, the policies are going to reflect um, the views and the benefits and or the desires of the majority of the people. And when white people are no longer the majority in America, then their views aren't going to and their priorities are not going to be as highly rated as those of people of color. And so they don't want to lose that position as well. They don't want to lose their country as their country as they would like to call it. So
And
just be
that may be
honest
one
about
of
it. I don't
them.
want
That
that
may be
many
one of
brown people
them.
in my country.
But that may be one of them. But again, I think the bigger thing was I don't want this brown person having a better opportunity than me. And then to me, that like you can phrase that too, well, I don't want my country to look brown. But the reality was, because I mean, Obama was elected twice. The reality was still, but hey, no, no, no. I still want to be able to do better than this brown person. And that's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying there's no empathy anymore. I get that you think that this is also huge on honesty, but I'm saying, no, we're
Oh, I just want you to be honest about your lack of empathy. I mean, don't come up with all the other excuses for why you believe it's going to happen. Just say because I'm a downright snake in the grass, and this is what I want to happen. I want my way and no way other. And not to be overly critical of them, but that's again still a human nature type thing. Many of us always want to be represented in the best light, and you start looking at even if you start looking at simple things like women wearing makeup and how much makeup they wear. I mean, you've seen some of these TikTok videos where you see the before and after picture. You see this woman say that she is butt ugly.
look at
Probably a
you,
bad thing to say. That's probably a bad
unattractive.
thing to say.
You can say
She's
unattractive, okay?
she's tender eyed. She's tender eyed. That's how the Bible called not Rachel, but Leah. But she is aesthetically unattractive. And then she proceeds to put on all these huge makeup tricks. And oh, at the end of it, she's gorgeous. You're like, oh my God. I mean, just think about that. How dishonest is that? I have a friend who every picture or every video they send out to their boyfriend or whoever else or people when they're meeting people is processed through a filter. And I'm like, we got filterized America right now. And so when somebody sees the truth behind those filters, they've got every right to be upset by the fact that wait a minute, this isn't what you advertised it to be. This is something, and I'm talking about a superficial thing here. We're just talking about
Right, because I
appearance,
was gonna
but the
say,
reality is,
Donald Trump is the leader of, hey, I'm letting you think that I'm a billionaire when actually you are pretty much owing tons of people of money and you're able to be sold by the highest bidder. I mean,
no,
I mean,
he's the
and I
easy
just said it
target.
because you like to target women, and I'm
Yeah,
like, well, hold on, you guys have
no, he's the
made
easy target. Men do the
whatever.
same thing. Men do the
You
same
do the
thing.
same thing. You project to have things that you don't have, or you project to be in certain titles that you don't have, or you project to have a certain faith that you don't have.
Exactly. That's the problem. This is the
But
problem.
again,
Why is it?
from my perspective, even if you're honest about your lack of empathy, that doesn't solve the problem. You need to fix your lack of empathy. Otherwise, we're still going to continue to go down a rabbit hole of hurting each other, and which is where we are now.
But you'll never fix it until you acknowledge that it's a problem. So as long as you're dishonest about how ugly I am, how poor I am, how unempathetic I
Quit saying
am, how
ugly,
selfish I
unattractive.
am,
Quit saying ugly. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, okay?
it is, it is, it is. But some of us, the vast majority of us, can behold certain things and say that is unattractive. And so, but the point is that you never really fix that which you continue to disguise. If you continue to disguise it, you'll never get it fixed, though, and that's my biggest issue.
Yeah. Well, my basic issue again is to be because to me, even when you say, "Hey, I voted for Trump because of the price of eggs," even if that is your reason, you then still have a lack of empathy about the other side of, and he also said I was going to do mass deportation. And so that's then what I'm trying to say is, listen, even when you're honest, because I do think a lot of people are honest about their entitlements. I do think a lot of people are honest about their selfishness. I do think when a lot of people say, "Hey, I want to be better than this brown person," because that to me is what they're saying. They're being very honest about that, but they're saying it in a way that they have no remorse about it. They have no care about it. They're like, that's why I liked the leadership that we have. It's because he could say the things that I didn't feel comfortable saying, but that is what I think. And that to me is why that's the problem. You are okay resting with that mentality. Even when you're honest about it, you're okay with it. And that to me is a problem.
Absolutely. So, do you think that we as Americans are generally more dishonest than we have been in the past?
And by the past, because again, I'm a 90s baby, you're a 70s, 60s. Um, I would say, I would say that there was something to be said about, again,
You look at you, dishonesty even about your age.
there was something to be said about the diplomacy, and again, I think there was a little bit more empathy in the past. I like what the leadership that we're seeing now, the country that we're seeing now. I would not have recognized that in the 90s. And I know from your perspective, well, at least now they're more bolden about it because they still felt that way. But to some degree, I'd rather that you don't feel that way or that you don't project that. And even if you're mine, if that's how you feel, you're not projecting it.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't hear what you said because my connection is not the best right now,
Well,
apparently.
hopefully that people are hearing what I say. I hope, I don't know if people in comment in the comments if they can't hear either of us. Well, I mean, I do hear you, but go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just thinking about how society has evolved to a point where it really promotes dishonesty. And there are so many things that are available today that lend us to be more likely to be dishonest than it was in the past. In the past, yeah, you could have put makeup on. I'm going to just use that as an example, just got started before. You could have put makeup on, but the level of the different types of makeup that I'm just saying, even men can disguise themselves as women. And so the level of makeup that you can put on today and really conceal a lot of other flaws and if you want to call them flaws, however, conceal a lot of things that you view to be undesirable. Let's say it that way. Whether it's appearance, whether it's financial status, whether it's lack of empathy, whether it's that your life sucks, all those things that we want to conceal, we have more tools available to us today to conceal those things. And I think it just promotes an air or an atmosphere of dishonesty. I mean, even people post things on social media, post all of hey, I want to get all of the everybody to envy my life right now, even though my life sucks. So I'm gonna post all the good pictures and see how many people like this and like that. And I think we get that positive feedback for our dishonesty every time somebody pushes the like button on one of our
Yeah,
lives.
I go the opposite on that. I think because of social media, that it is harder for us to conceal who we really are. And even with your example of makeup, I mean, to me, we are also at a point where you can recognize when someone has a lot of makeup. We are also at a point where you can recognize when someone has gotten plastic surgery on both sides, men and women. We are also at a point where, hey, if I want to dig up stuff from your past is available to me by way of social media. I mean, anything that you can find about a lot of politicians, a lot of them will say, man, it's unfortunate. It's so fortunate that I didn't have social media back in the day because people are grudging up the times that I was on blackface, or people are grudging up the times that me and this other person was in this relationship. So I dare say the tools that are available to us now are making us even more transparent. And I think that's also why we see a lot of the suicide rates go up. It's because people are forced to be honest about themselves. Now, it's unfortunate that you do not like yourself to a point that you feel like the only way out is through the death of yourself. But I do think that with the tools we have available is forcing us to be honest about who we are.
Yeah, I
You still
totally
can't hear me,
disagree with
huh?
that. Totally disagree with it. And the reason why is because you start looking at the way that misinformation and disinformation, the difference between them being unintentional versus intentional. So disinformation is intentionally fed into social media. And I think more people are disinformed and misinformed from social media than are being held accountable by social media. In fact, even right now, technology allows even those things that now come up uh, about they could attempt to hold you accountable. You can now claim, nope, that's a deep fake, and you can even, tell somebody how do you prove if something is a deep fake or not. The governor, as you referred to, that old pictures of him being in blackface came up today, or maybe not even today, but a couple years from now, if something like that comes up, I guarantee you people will start denying it and call it a deep fake. And why? Because they got that information from our leaders, and they found out that, hey, why not lie about it if you got a plausible excuse and you got plausible support for it. And all people have to do is just believe whatever they choose to believe as being true or not. It's a deep fake.
But
If
that's
I ever
what
got
was going
if
on in the 90s. Politicians were lying to us in the 90s. We weren't getting information in the 80s and 90s. And to me, yeah, there is disinformation out there, but there's also accurate information out there. You go to just like FEMA's perfect example. Yes, the disinformation that this money is being used for immigrants, that was easily disproven also on social media. But to your last point, you're going to believe what you want to believe because whatever you want to believe is out there. But if you want to find the truth, that's out there too. But I mean, back to me, back in the
well the
days, the politicians weren't giving you the truth at all. They were giving you what you want to
Yeah,
hear.
but back in the day, a picture could come up or an audio can come out, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gone." They try to find
We
ways to
still say
escape it,
that.
but then eventually, no,
Now
they
it's
won't.
like, oh, it's just a cancel culture. Now it's say, oh, you should
They
forgive me.
say it wasn't me. It wasn't
They
me.
don't even say
It
that.
wasn't me.
Just like the whole
Well, they
Snapchat,
not yet.
like the whole Signal chat. I don't want to say Snapchat, but it's like the whole Signal gate. Yeah, they could argue all day. Oh no, that was not us giving out war plans, but we can read the whole text exchange and see that they were giving out war plans. I mean, you can deny it all, just like they would have denied it before had we not had access to the actual exchange. But now we have access to it. So to me, yeah, you're still going to deny it regardless, but I can pull the receipts.
Yeah, you can pull the receipts, but people call it a counterfeit receipt. I don't. I just think that I don't know that there's a a way that I just think that technology allows and encourages people to be much more dishonest than they used to be. Social media, even posts. I mean, why are you posting stuff? Why are you posting lies about your life in the first place? Why do you have to perpetuate lies about yourself in order? And a lot of times it's for personal gain. It's for whether you gain in clout, gaining popularity, whatever it is, and even for that matter, gaining financially. People put themselves out to be, huge successes online. You get these scams all the time. People calling about crypto. One women sending you a text message or some type of message, and then tell you that they're one person. Hey, I do this cryptocurrency. I talked to this guy just a couple weeks ago. He lost tens of thousands of dollars to some woman who he had established a relationship with, and she told him, "Hey, I need to have you put this money into some crypto account. It's going to earn you all kinds of money." And because he had been hoodwinked by this woman, he got hit for tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, like probably $50,000 or more. And he was sick about it, but it was one of the reasons why he got divorced, though, because his wife found out about it. So dishonesty does
So to some
sometimes bring
degree,
about some
God was going to
honesty.
expose that anyways. But again, people were getting frauded and all that back in the day too. I mean, to me, part of his problem was he didn't do any due diligence because again, if you do some due diligence, you can the tools are available for you to make a more informed decision than if you hadn't, back in the day when those tools are not there for you.
How do you do due diligence today?
Again, social media allows you to do some due diligence. So if it's like someone wants to research the due diligence on Sonny Madison, oh, I'm sure you can find where my property is. I'm sure you can find what my job is. I'm sure you can find my family. I mean, you can do due diligence on that. If you wanted to look at a financial report for one of the top 500 company, those financial
So the
reports are now
technology is
available online.
and they're available for fabrication too. I've had some people contact me about a couple things online, and I went on to look them up and try to check the validity of their company. Guess what? You do that by going online and checking. Let me look at your website. Wait, you can still have a legitimate looking website with all types of testimonials and a bunch of people really singing your praises, but you still be a scam organization that's still on the internet. Most of us are now doing our due diligence online, and online the internet is filled with all types of dishonesty.
But it's also
And
filled with some
I don't
truth.
know how you can actually cipher through some of those
The
things.
reason why George Floyd was able to get justice is because that video was uploaded online. And so I mean I'm not disputing that people can fabricate, but people were doing that before. I mean, even before social media, people can go around telling people Dr. Mark Williams is a horrible doctor. I mean, now it's just a platform to where
No
it's a
one would
bigger
ever say that.
deal. I mean,
No one would ever
now you
say
can just
that.
put it on a platform that's a bigger deal, but nothing new. Just like we always said, hey, lynchings, police brutality, excessive force, that was always there. But now we just have the opportunity to show it on a more global scale. Same thing with Selma. We knew that the marches
Well,
and the civil rights was happening. The problem was it wasn't until it got into a camera that then we decided, okay, that does look like too much.
this is where this is finding where I sometimes have a problem with you. Because you always say, well, it's always existed. Just because it's always existed doesn't mean that it always existed with the frequency and to the extent that it does now. Yes, it always existed is not a defense of where it is today just because it always existed. Yeah, we know it existed, but today it happens more. It's more visible. We're able to capture it more. We're able to notice it more. We're more aware of it, but it also happens with a greater frequency with potentially greater consequences than it did before. Online scams didn't happen like that before. They happened by telephone, yes, but telephone, there was only certain things that was going to happen by telephone. But now the deception has gotten so coy and so professional that even people who think they did their due diligence are now still being duped. Before it was, back in the day
We're
when
being
all you had was a telephone number, you didn't have any other place to go to go verify it. But now we go on, we just call ourselves doing our due diligence, and everything that we find online is is fake. If this
Everything online is not fake. And that to
I'm
me
not.
is the
I'm saying.
problem that I
I'm not
have
saying
with you.
everything online is fake. I said everything we find online when we do our due diligence in that moment
That is
may
not
be
true.
fake. I'm. You're not hearing me. I'm saying when we do our due diligence and we are being scammed, and we thought we did due diligence, everything we found might have been false. And as a result, we got scammed. And we said, yeah, I did my due diligence. Well, the problem is, let's imagine this. The technology is there right now. People know when they say, okay, I want you to go on, and I know I'm calling you, cold calling you. I want you to go to my website here. And on my website, you want to look up www.imscamming.you.com, right? And you go to that website, and they basically, once you've gone to that website, they've captured your IP address. Once they've captured your IP address, they can then, anytime you go on and search anything related to that company again, they can preferentially direct all information to your IP address. They've got the technology to be able to scam you so that you're thinking that you're doing all kinds of due diligence, but what you're really doing is you're basically doing their job for them. You're scamming yourself because they've digitally uh, tainted all the information that you're going to go search from.
Well,
The
as I said
technology is
before,
there.
as I
That
said
couldn't have
before,
happened before.
as I said before, what I'm saying the difference is now information that is true is available. Because to me, before people will say what they want you to hear. Now there is opposite information that is available. Now, to me, if you do your due diligence, and we've talked about this on the show, if you realize, hey, let me look up Liberation Day, and you're getting topics that all say the same thing, then that's not accurate due diligence. You need to make sure, hey, have I expanded to see the other side? Because there are pros and cons with everything. If I do due diligence on a stock and I see, man, a lot of people are saying it's good, but I don't even look to see if anyone is saying it's bad. I'm just intuitively following only the good. That to me is not due diligence. And so that's what I'm saying is the difference right now is there's also information available that is more accurate. Now, yes, you're going to have to do some digging because I don't disagree that there is still a lot more information out there that is inaccurate. But I'm not going to go with the notion that everything out there is inaccurate. No, the accurate information is out there too. You just got to find it. Whereas before, it was a lot harder to find the accurate information.
Yeah. Point of clarification. I didn't say everything on the
you,
internet is inaccurate. I
you
did not.
corrected me.
That's what you heard. That's what you
Yeah, that is
heard.
what I heard. So that's why
I was giving you a scenario. When you do your due diligence,
but I'm
everything you
giving the
found,
reality is that everything out there is not fake.
there
And
is
so
still a
you
reality.
do
There
your
is still
due
a reality.
diligence,
There
then
is
you
still a
will find a
reality.
mixed breed of information out there.
Do you know how difficult it is sometimes to go in and search for some information and really find the true um, the opposing side? I do this all the time. Somebody give me some information, they send me a video or something. And I'm telling you, I have to dig deep in order to find something that refutes it. And the reason why is because the search engine optimization just continues to feed you more of what they think you want to hear. And so Google is thinking that I want to hear one thing. And so that's all it's doing. I'm going through pages and pages and pages of stuff that all support it. And then I eventually am able to uncover something that doesn't, though, that refutes it. If I go through pages and pages and pages of things that support it and then eventually found one thing that argues against it, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be more inclined to believe all the other pages and pages and pages. Why? Because, hey, there's an abundance of things that support this position, and there's only one or two other things that refute it.
And you
And
know the
it's,
difference between doing that versus doing that 20 years ago? You just would have been reading a book that said the same thing over and over and over again until you found that one book that says something different. So at
but
least now it's all on the internet. And so you can go through pages and pages of Google versus reading the entire encyclopedia to find the other side. And that's all I'm saying is
no.
there's nothing different. But what's now more available is some more accuracy. Yes, I think there's accurate information is now more available. And that to me is often why people have a
Accurate
distrust
information
in,
is more available today than it was in the past. It's more
yes.
access. I should say it's more accessible.
And that's all I'm saying.
It's more accessible. But what's more available is misinformation.
Fine, we can agree on that.
Oh,
We,
oh, stop
we
the
can end
presses.
with that agreement.
Stop the presses. We found the point of agreement. Oh my God. Look at that. There is a God. And unfortunately, we got about a minute left in the show. And let's just relish in this moment here. Every ladies and gentlemen, what you have witnessed is not dishonesty. It is an honest point of agreement between me and my co-host. Whew. Good. Tune in next week.
Liberation Day.
Let's see what it's done for. Well, good. Well, that's a good place to end this. So we probably had to.
But go ahead. You were about to close us out. Tune into. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm gonna go. I'm closing you out this time. Okay.
Well,
Well,
you said tune into. I didn't mean to cut you off when you were.
well, hey, if you'll allow me to do it, I'm happy to have the last word. You know, I seldomly get the last word with you, so. But thank you all so much for tuning in to the Roundtable Console, as you do every week. We certainly appreciate your questions, your comments, and your shares as well. Catch any of our previous episodes either on Facebook Live. You can also catch it on YouTube. You can catch a repeat of this episode also on starradio.com and now KD Live. We're here every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook Live. Until next week, you all be out there, be blessed, and be liberated.